To ask people, I've been here, I've been in this room, I think once, 12 years ago with Carolina, but I completely forgot the layout. So I've been in the wrong door a bunch of times, yeah.
I don't know if anyone would have expected the teams to be where they are. What's your take on that?
Yeah, exactly. I think where both sides internally thought they would be. I think real good team in Winnipeg, playing well. And we thought, after last year, kind of not far off our regulation win total that we were at last year at this time, even with the big start that they had. So had a little bit of adversity, but handled it really well, and kind of like our game. Like we like the way we play. We're looking for a little more consistency in some areas, as everybody is, I think, at this time, but pretty good.
Players here have told us that it's kind of a night and day difference from last year to this. I know you were only here for half of last year.
Yeah.
But they talk about more detail, more structure. How do you take that? You feel it reflects on you at all?
No, I think that's what happens when you come out of Canada. I think that's fairly ubiquitous in each market when there's a coaching change, and that's what happens. So it's good for them. They needed a change. They needed a new voice. They got it. They're playing well. I'm happy for them.
Paul, when there's a seismic shift with a hockey club like yours, like there was over the course of the summer, in your mind, what's the normal time frame to get over that and to reestablish the identity of the hockey?
Yeah, so part of it is the change in the identity, and we're actually, I think, almost ahead of it now, especially in our last two games. The adversity that we've had has been good for us. It's never good to have a player like Ekblad out for as long, or Barkov out for what we're dealing with now with our other injuries, but especially we beat Boston at home, played very well for two, had a real tough ending to a St. Louis game and a tough ending to Edmonton, but have come out in our last two and played a real good game, and it was like maybe where we started. So I think everybody's wondering today, it's the last of a road trip. You've been feeling it for a while. You've got 5 guys out. What kind of energy level can you get to? But these guys have been able to do that. The energy in our starts, we've had 2 off first periods in our first 25 games. We've been pretty good. So I think we're excited. You get that. There is a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel sometimes when you get on the long trips. So we'll look forward to this one, and I think when we get back, we'll slowly start to see some bodies come back into our lineup.
This roster obviously extremely well. What, in your eyes, what makes Rick Bowness such a good fit for this group? Would he have been a guy that, when you now look at it, say?
Yeah, I think there were probably 2 or 3 names, and I followed it, and Rick would be one of them. Somebody that does a really good job at getting down to the, pardon the pun, the bones of it. To get to the structure of it, the skeleton of fixing some basic things and getting a real simple kind of mindset in all 3 zones, real consistent game. I think he did that in Dallas as well. Bit of a defensive bent on it. Got a real good goaltender here, so it was structured right. When Dallas was kind of rolling with their goaltending too, it was kind of very similar.
But the passage of time, do you have any regrets how last year played out? Would you do anything differently in hindsight?
I'd have got off the bench in the summer.
Yeah.
Prior. If I was to do something, to be honest, if I was going to go do something different, it would be that.
How come? Why do you say that?
Because you can see it. I was in a very unique position to see it. I could see it in the summer, right? And then you go run 8, 9 years, and we had, we'd gone from not winning a playoff game to banging out 114 points one year, and you kind of hit that crest, and then it was time.
How did you get back to the point where you were ready to take the Panthers job?
I didn't. What I said was true. I think I had 4 kind of incredible days at the lake, and was driving home with my wife on a Monday, and my phone rang in my car, and I didn't know the number. And usually I don't answer numbers that I don't know, right? Telemarketing. And I have no relationship with Bill, and it was, what are you interested in? So a bunch of unusual little things that happened, right? I was watching a game in January. It was like almost the first time I'd put the game back on, and flipping through, and my wife says, "Does anything interest you?" And I said, "Yeah, the Florida Panthers interest me, but that's not, they can't stop winning, so nothing's happening there." But it's just the style of game. It was interesting. And then my son turns the corner one day and says, "Hey, I just got into Miami Law School." And I'm thinking, 2-bedroom condo, kid. and you don't know it, but mom and dad are moving in, right? This isn't going to be as much fun as you think. And then the phone call, right? So I talked to other teams, and it just wasn't a fit there. I was comfortable with where I was at, but I've had a really in-depth conversation and meeting over 4 or 5 days, maybe even longer than that. And I was excited about the idea of what they're trying to do. I was also aware of what this year was going to look like for them, and thought that I could handle that for them. That there would be, they're going to go from 122. We're not getting 122 this year, but all of their pieces are not that far off. Things will change pretty significantly for this team in a cap, with the cap next year, with some money that's sitting there they can't use, and some other things that will change. So they'll be able to fill their holes fairly quickly. And off that, the drivers of the team, Matthew Tkachuk and Barkov. I mean, Matthew's 24 years old and just coming into his prime. So I think they had a good year. They've struggled a little bit, maybe kind of getting to that next level. But I think the best hockey for this franchise is ahead of them.
Paul, you talk about the end of a road trip. What do you think Tierney, Dalpate, Kierstead can bring to this
Those
team?
guys,
Energy?
right, so they are fired up about coming to Winnipeg and playing. And we've seen it with Heponiemi scoring the other night, and Eric Stahl now is off, he's gone from kind of PTO to non-roster player. Now he's in the third line, and he's playing well. So you've got a whole bunch of guys, they say, well, it's opportunity. It is, it's truly. These guys have been working hard, and now they're going to play 15 minutes a night, not 6 or 7. So they were good. Like that line, Lombard, prior to Patrick Horn was leaving the game, they were pretty dominant in their play. So we'll see that tonight. They got big centermen here on the other side, so Eric Stahl will be real important for us.
Goaltender tonight?
Spencer goes
You
tonight.
talked about letting him get into a rhythm. Just what have you seen from him this last stretch? Where he's
Exactly that. We had just such an unusual set of circumstances, right? We split our goaltending in the first 20 games. Carrying 20, but as you saw today, practicing 14 or 15. So there's nobody staying extra to do a lot of work, a lot of shots. I thought that we needed to give one goaltender a bit of a rhythm here. His game was right on. Sergei's isn't quite where he wants it to be. We'll give him some time to get it back going. We've got 2-day block here coming into this. So Spencer feels good. It's also his first real opportunity to get a little bit of a taste of what number one role is like in the National Hockey League. And we've got 2 divisional games. We've only played 5 divisional games. We've got 2 divisional games when we get back, so we wanted to give him a little bit of a rhythm.
Paul, from the outside, it looks like, from far away, it looks like flow of play is pretty good for you guys, but finishing and goaltending, the percentages haven't always been in
So
your
I figure I'm getting a question from you today.
You know it.
Because here's the funny thing, right? Won a bunch of games here in Winnipeg, but our analytics were just not very good, and our analytics are kind of outstanding in Florida, right? Slot shots, we're the top 5 in the league in shots for, and our wins and losses aren't right where we want them to be. So, but there's a lot of truth to our game. Our game's pretty good. We've, I think, found a fairly decent balance in terms of being able to score and what we generate, and for the most part, been a pretty solid defensive team.
The frustrations almost feel like for opposite reasons then. 'Cause,
Correct. Closing some games out. We go in and put 96 shot attempts up in Columbus and lose the game. So we've had a few of those. If you go through your sport logic, we got a lot more reds above the bar games that we outperformed teams but didn't win. But that's been okay for us. It's a good thing for us to learn. Adversity was something almost completely absent from the Florida Panthers till the playoffs last year. And dealing with it now is what we're all about. This is the point of the year for us, is learn how to win some games when Barkov's out, learn how to win when Ekblad's out, learn how to grind a game when the puck's not going in the net for you, and for the longest time it just wouldn't. So it's been good.
The other question I have to ask, I saw that you made a connection with the Legacy family here.
Yeah.
And it was very important to you. And what has that relationship been like? Why was it important to make sure you got a touch there?
Well, because you forget, and I'm guilty of it. You forget what life in the National Hockey League is and what it can do. It has nothing to do with Paul Maurice, but if you're the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets and you get a chance to see somebody that's, Matthew was toward the end of time, that you can bring a little joy. It just turned out for me that the family was so much like my family that we stayed connected, and the baking's outstanding when I come into town. So you get to see people, and then you realize that you had a bigger impact than you would have thought a half hour out of your day at a hospital would have brought to people. So wonderful, wonderful family. Great to see them. That's the best part of the homecoming, right? You get to see even you people, believe it or not. I got to see my daughter last night. She's teaching at St. Mary's. She loves the girls. She's just like happy, right? She's got a happy, wonderful life in Winnipeg. It's exactly the way I felt about it. And I felt about it after I left too. I felt the same way. It's just, I'm happy the Winnipeg Jets are playing well and doing well. I'm cheering for them. I'm cheering for the organization, for the fans. It was a difficult thing to do, and it was a very difficult time for me. But I believe that that's where this would go, and it's good. It's good for them. It's good for the Legacy family. It's good.
Paul, what was your take of Blake having the captaincy removed, and maybe what that's done for him, freeing him up in a way, or?
So Blake and I had talked from the day that he became captain, that at 35 we would discuss if it was time for him to come off, and that was no genius on my part. Ronnie Francis told me that. So Ronnie Francis was the captain of our team. He says right around 35, 36, you need a different captain because you stop connecting with the 21, 22, 23-year-olds in the same way. You need somebody younger to kind of come in and take over that role. So what happened between the end of the season and that change, I have no information on that. And I'm sure there were lots of conversations that went on about what was the right thing to do. And clearly Blake doesn't look his age. He's playing exceptionally well, and it's been great for him. It's been great for the team. It all went right. It all went right.
Paul, in light of the game one of the bubble, and Matthew comes.
Yeah.
Can we be a fly on the wall and hear how that
You know what?
conversation went?
That conversation never happened. Welcome, and then just watched him. And I've said this a bunch of times. There were two things that you don't know. One, I had no idea how good his hands are. Like, you see a guy from the distance, and you watch him play, and he tips those goals around the net. Yesterday in practice, he took a puck about 6 inches off the boards in a 2-on-2 game, bounced it off the glass over the guy's head, spun, pick it up, put it through the other guy's feet, and scored. And I'm not the only one going, did you just see? Like, the players on the ice are going, oh my God, did you just see that? So that's one. And the other is what he's like to the support staff, the bus drivers, the trainers, the equipment people. He is so giving, so caring. But I don't know if there's lots of stories of his dad doing that, even here in town. I don't know if you hear those, but it's not for me to tell. So he's very much like his father in that. So he was in town a week. He had all the trainers out for dinner, took them all out and their families. Like, he's an incredibly giving guy. So that's the guy that I met, the guy that I know. I don't have to swear at him from the other team's bench anymore. So I love the guy. He's great. I mean, he's been awesome for us. He's been very consistent with Barkov's injury and us playing with whoever I've played him with, and he doesn't care who he plays with. Just, yeah, I'll play with him. He's great. He's produced, so he's been great for us.
Paul, we saw yesterday how emotional it was for Bruce going back to Boston.
Yeah.
Will there be an element of that? I know it's very-
Oh, for sure. Yeah, even with Alia, like, it's a big part of your life. You invest so much into it. And you don't separate the personal and the professional because they'll always come together, right? And so my kids came here at a young age, and they became who they are in Winnipeg. So there's a connection there. I'll get to meet a few people. While I'm here, we're not long enough to see all the people you care for, you'd like to, but for sure, right? And I haven't seen the players. I haven't run into any of them really over time. I talked to them occasionally, briefly early on in the summertime, but it'll be different for sure.
Paul, what kind of pressure comes with inheriting the President's Trophy winners and finding yourself where you are on the standings at this stage?
It would depend on the environment. So the group that hired me understood exactly this, that this is where we were going to be, that this is what we had to fix. So there isn't any from that. As a matter of fact, they're real happy about the way we're playing, the things that we've kind of fixed in our game, our style, the direction's going. The room is great. They work their asses off. They have fun. They love each other. So in our contingent, none in terms of the expectation of keep driving, keep getting better every day. It's been a real positive place to work.
Paul, what have you learned about Carter Brady in a couple months here?
If you put 20 guys into a scrum with a puck, he's coming out with it one way or the other. Like, he is on the puck, hard on pucks in a tight area, and he will score from incredibly unusual angles, to the point that you know he can do it. There's no luck in him putting the puck to the net. Very upbeat, very positive, unique. I guess there's a lot of really different guys here in this room, really different styles of hockey. And Barkov would be the leader. He's got these incredible hands, but he applies it defensively first, and then he loves that part of the game. You've got Matthew, who's just, old school in the corners, elbows high. There's always, he's like the pack, right? The puck, the refs, and the other team follow him kind of around the ice. Carter's like that. He's unique. He's got very, very similar in some ways to Kyle Connor. And the puck comes off his stick before the goaltender expects it to come off his stick. And he can do it while his feet are moving. So it's similar in style. So when we talk to him about power play routes and things like that, it'll be a lot of the same conversation.
Paul, just one on Dave Lowry, who I think you would have had a chance to probably catch up with.
Yeah, we did,
You guys
yeah.
just came, sort of the reunion week here for you. When I asked you if there's anything you would change, do you feel that Dave was put in a tough spot? I talked to Dave in Seattle a few
Yeah.
weeks ago, and with the kid on the team and all, it was a tough position for him to be in. right?
Yeah.
What's your take, I guess, on
I think-
and the fact he's landed on his feet?
I'm not surprised he's landed on his feet, but the vast majority of ways we come into the National Hockey League is that. They're almost all very difficult situations. The team fires the coach, there's a reason for it, right? Coaches leave, there's a reason for it, they separate. So you get a set of circumstances that are difficult. I would suggest he was the right guy because it was going to be a difficult year one way or the other. If I had stayed, it would have been the same thing. The new guy comes in, it was a fresh start. So by the time they came out of that, they knew they would have a fresh start, and off they went, and everybody understood that. For Dave, you got an opportunity to be a head coach in the NHL. I didn't sleep my first year either, or my 20th. So that's the job. That's the nature of this beast.
And obviously, it was important for you to bring Jamie with you down to Florida, and he's a guy you obviously have a great relationship with.
Yeah, you know what? I think we have completely different styles, and we work differently, but we really connect with each other in terms of what he's really good at. Rounded out the rest of the staff. Tuomo Ruutu, I coached. He would be a guy that will be on the radar at some point as a coach, as an ex-player. He's got he played with Roddy Brindamore. He's had a lot of different people that he's worked with over his time, worked with Joel. So really smart young hockey coach, very hardworking. So got a unique staff, and it's a little bit like my whole Florida experience. We got really kind of unique situations and people in our room. This is a unique situation. They'd have a new coach after the year that they had, and I think we're all enjoying it very much.
What do you think your players will get out of all the feelings you have getting behind that bench tonight, if any?
I don't think that, you know what, I don't. So when we go back to Calgary, which would actually be a way bigger deal than the coach coming back, a player going back.
Right.
Yeah, the guys just went out and played. They make it a couple jokes and away they go. There'll be a few older guys, Eric Stahl, that I think understand the significance sometimes of coming back to a place that you've been a long time. He'll get that feeling when he rolls back into Carolina. So the rest of them are just going to play. They don't care.
I think Bruce said last night he put some money on the board and dipped into his kids' college
Yeah.
education fund. Will there be some Maurice money on the board tonight?
Well, if I wouldn't be silly enough to tell anybody. Like, the last guy that did that was Ron Wilson, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a pretty significant fine for that, was there not?
So you can talk about a
There's
post-game but not pre-game?
nothing going on the board from the Maurice family.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, guys.
Thank you,
Okay,
guys.
guys. All right, guys.
Thank you.
It's a whole bunch of